Hello, this is Deacon Larry, and this is Renewed. Welcome back. Today's a bit of a serious topic for us to talk about. This is a day in which we know in our world, in the global environment, there's a risk of a new war breaking out, an invasion by an unjust aggressor. And it raises the question for us, what do we as Catholics believe about war? We have for millennia had what is called a just war tradition. An understanding that not as individual citizens we can necessarily evaluate a war, but as we look from a perspective of a nation and another nation, how do we evaluate whether a war is just or not? There are several conditions that have to be met for a war to be just. Our catechism spells them out for us. One is there has to be a clear aggressor nation. That some sovereign country attacks another country. So an unjust, that can be an invasion, as we saw in Kuwait a number of years ago. The second condition, the damage inflicted by the aggressor nation or community of nations, it has to be lasting, grave, and serious. It can't be just a running over the border and running back. It's got to be serious and lasting. There has to be, in a just war, a prospect of success. Very difficult for us, as we've seen since the Korean War, the Vietnam War, on, even to Afghanistan so recently, that it's hard to execute a war to a successful completion without catastrophic damage and cost. The use of arms must not produce an evil greater than the evil inflicted, that the damage done can't outweigh, and that's hard to do in a world with the massive kinds of weapons that we have today. All we need to do is look at the devastation to many of the cities in Iraq and Afghanistan. And finally, the care of having executed every diplomatic means possible before entering into war. All of these elements play a role in us evaluating, is this exercise a just war? One of the things for us, sisters and brothers, to realize is that as the church has moved through modern times, one of the things that we've come to realize is that it's hard to find a just war. We should never seek a just war. Rather, our hearts should always be oriented towards peace, although recognizing that there certainly is evil, and there can be evil actions by nations taken in our world. It's a difficult thing to weigh, the good and the bad, the cry for justice and the protection of the innocents, along with an aversion to violence that should be the natural state of any Christian. Pope Francis wrestled with this in his recent encyclical Fratelli Tutti, on the encyclical on fraternity and social friendship. In speaking about war, late in this wonderful document that calls us to understand that we are indeed meant to live in friendship with one another, he says this: in view of this, it is very difficult nowadays to invoke the rational criteria elaborated in earlier centuries to speak of the possibility of a just war. He's saying that even though we have the theory of a just war, it's hard to get there in our modern times. He says ultimately what we must say is never again war. And he bases it indeed on an understanding and reflection on the damages that are caused by war. Not just damages in the immediacy of death, the damages to the infrastructure, the ability of the society to recover, and the generational, multi-generational impact of the legacy of hate that's handed down by war. As he says in paragraph 261 of Fratelli Tutti, this simple line that is a call for us: every war leaves our world worse than it was before. Sisters and brothers, if we can let those words sink in, indeed, there is a call there for our renewal.
Please like, subscribe, or comment below.